Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My dream dad car is the Ferrari FF. And I've been extremely lucky. Over the last 4 days, I have been driving this Ferrari 612 Scaglietti around, a car which for many years I've always seen as my more affordable, more achievable entry into Ferrari ownership, like a budget Ferrari FF. However, my time with this incredible car has led me to the belief that it is, in fact, rather surprisingly, the Maserati Grand Sport, which is the real poor man's Ferrari FF. And in this video, fresh from driving that around for 4 days, I'm going to be hopping back into my Maserati Grand Sport, taking you with me and giving you the 5 reasons why I believe this to be the case, and also why living with the 612 has just made me appreciate and love my Grand Sport even more. Come on, let's get into it. My name's Ben and welcome to Dadcars. And look, as I said, I've broken this down into 5 main categories as to why I think this is a true spiritual poor man's Ferrari FF. And to preempt somebody hopping into the comment section and moaning about my use of the term poor man's, I've been using that phrase affectionately for like over 15 years. Ever since I got my first sports car, my Mark II MR2, I would proudly proclaim to anybody, yeah, look, my MR2, it's my poor man's Ferrari F355. But come on, let's kick things off with number 1 of 5. And this should be the most obvious, one of the most important things about the Ferrari FF. The reason it's so special is because of that engine. And obviously that Ferrari V12 in the F12 in the FF is just mind-blowing. When you drive it, it doesn't even feel like it's an engine that should be in a road car. It's just insane. But the engine in these Maseratis is also pretty damn special. And so I always refer to this engine, this V8, the F136, I refer to it as the Ferrari Maserati engine. And I've even had people grumble in the comment sections before saying, oh, it's not, it's a Maserati engine. If you want a Ferrari, get a Ferrari. But the fact is the engine itself came from Ferrari. It was then developed by Maserati, for their purposes here. This in the Grand Sport is a 4.2 litre naturally aspirated V8 with a cross-plane crank. But this same base engine was made by Ferrari and then developed by Ferrari for the Ferrari 430, the 4.3 litre with the flat plane crank. And in this Grand Sport, it's around 395 horsepower. In the 430, I think it's around 480. But when you're making a case for a car being a budget version of something as glorious as the Ferrari FF, having this engine in this car kicks off my arguments to a good start. Which brings us on to argument number 2 of 5. The Ferrari comparisons don't just end with the engine. These cars are more Ferrari than you'd think. Having recently spent time with that 612 Scaglietti, and yes, I have always called it the Scaglietti and I will continue to do so. So many people commented on the 612 review saying, buddy, the G is silent. And I even had my friend Jack from the YouTube channel number 27, he sent me a voice note saying, Ben, this is how you're supposed to say it.
It's pronounced Scaglietti, mate. Scaglietti, not Scaglietti.
Look, I come from Portsmouth, and in Portsmouth, all of your T's are silent. So, look, just be thankful that I'm not pronouncing it Scaglietti. But anyway, when I spent time with the Scaglietti, I wasn't even looking, and I couldn't help but notice how many parts in the Ferrari 612 are exactly the same as in my Grand Sport. The steering wheel is definitely similar in certain parts. The handbrake is exactly the same in the Grand Sport as it is in the 612. Obviously the Cambrio Corsa gearbox in here, very, very similar to the F1 system in many Ferraris, and this little hooky mechanism to sort of put it into reverse, you know, is the same as in Ferraris. And sitting in the back of the 612, I noticed that the little pop-out coat hook in the back that children play with, and also the light in the back of the car is exactly the same. So like I say, you know, these cars do have a lot of Ferrari in them. And I've driven and reviewed 3 Ferraris on this channel now, the F12, the FF and the 612, but I've also driven a couple of other Ferraris off camera as well, a manual 360 and very briefly JM on Cars 430 Scuderia. God, what a car that is. But honestly, take it from me, I promise you I'm not saying this just because I'm going to be selling this car soon. I know that's another comment people say as well. I'm not. I'd be honest with you if this wasn't the case. But, you know, these Maseratis, particularly the Maseratis from this generation, you know, with that engine, they do, honestly, when you're with them, you're driving them, you know, you can feel, they feel like affordable and more practical Ferraris. They really do. Which brings us perfectly onto point number 3, and that's the practicality of the Ferrari FF. Look, if you look at the Ferrari FF in pictures, look at pictures of it on your phone, you know, you'd be forgiven for thinking, oh look, it just looks like a Ferrari hatchback. But actually, when you see them in person, they are massive. But to have a ferocious Ferrari FF like that, you know, to have 4 proper seats, you know, the rear of a Ferrari FF, teenagers, adults of all sizes, honestly can comfortably fit in those rear seats. It's a proper 4-seater. And that is obviously why on this channel, you know, I crowned the FF the dad car king, because, you know, it's a car which you don't have to compromise with what child seats you put in the back. You know, if you're a sane person, you've got only 2 children, you know, the Ferrari FF can take you, your whole family, in a car with that incredible V12 engine. And so obviously for this to be the true budget FF experience, you know, you need to have the same level of rear practicality. And although it's slightly smaller, I would say, in the back of the Grand Sport, it's still a proper 4-seater. You know, me and my friend James, JM on Cars, we sat in the back when I first picked this car up from him, just to make the point of how, yeah, look, you know, 2 adults can sit in the back of a Grand Sport. But I think the TARDIS nature of the Grand Sport is actually even more impressive than the FF, just because of how small this car appears on the outside. The FF is basically the same size as the 612 Scaglietti, and when I had the 612 on my driveway next to the Grand Sport, honestly, it made this look comically small. So for a car this small to still have that level of practicality, I think is incredible. And in fact, the Grand Sport can do something that a Ferrari FF will never be able to do, because the Ferrari FF has got a very pronounced transmission tunnel in the back, and the Grand Sport doesn't. So as you can see in my car here, I can actually get a 3-across all-in-one multi-back seat in the back, which is amazing. You know, I could take all 4 of my children out in this car. I could never do that in a Ferrari FF. But rear seats and internal practicality means nothing without point number 5. But first, let's talk about point number 4, which is running costs. If you want to test your ability, see if you can stomach the incredible running costs that come along with a V12 Ferrari FF, then, you know, look, a Grand Sport is going to give you a very good taste of, you know, what it would be like to run an FF. You know, miles per gallon I've been getting in this Grand Sport has been around 15, although a friend of mine might have highlighted something, you know, a reason why I'm only getting that, and if he can fix it, I'll make one last video before I sell this car. But anyway, miles per gallon in these Grand Sports, you're going to be in the teens, I reckon, most of the time. Whereas in the FF, you'll struggle, even on a run, to get into the teens. Servicing and maintenance, obviously, in this, look, it's going to be less than a Ferrari FF, but it's going to be a lot. Look, if you going into buying a Grand Sport, you weren't a poor man before, if you're not careful and, you know, you buy the wrong one, a car that's just sort of been sat around and not been driven for years and years and years, you know, you can easily be a poor man after buying one of these. And so that's running cost. But what about purchase price? Well, for a Ferrari FF, you're looking at around £100,000, whereas for a Grand Sport, you're looking at around £20,000. So a fifth of the price. And so the fifth and final reason why I think the Grand Sport is the true spiritual budget FF experience, why this is a car that you can buy for a fifth of the money, yet you can still experience the most magical thing about Ferrari FF, is that despite the fact that this is a true proper four-seater, just like the FF, when you're on a spirited drive, you forget that it's a practical car and it's got those rear seats. When you want it to, the FF doesn't feel like a big, heavy, practical Grand Tourer. It feels like an animal. And obviously being a bit of an animal is what the Grand Sport does best. And despite the fact that this has only got a V8 and not a V12, you know, this is a much smaller car, it's a much lighter car. And paired with that, the best steering that I've ever experienced on any Maserati that I've ever driven. Oh, honestly, this is just incredible Italian steering, so fast. And the other reason that I love the FF so much is that, you know, when I did drive it on a little bit of a spirited blast, you know, it wasn't that fast when I drove it really, because I did have my pickle behind me. But, oh, honestly, it felt so fast. It felt so much drama, that engine, you know, the steering, just everything about the FF. Look, and this is the special thing. So I probably wasn't going incredibly fast. You know, it was around that time as well that I drove a F90 M5 competition on the channel, which is a faster car than the FF. And I reckon I drove that car faster than the FF as well on the channel, but it just didn't feel as fast. You know, it didn't feel as exciting for me. And I think when everybody complains so much about, you know, roads today and not being able to drive fast because of speed cameras, this, that, and the other, I mean, having a car which, you know, you could drive it on a blast, doing sensible speeds, speed limit, and still just have an incredible time. And you get that with the Grand Sport, honestly. You drive 60 miles an hour in the Grand Sport and it feels like you're going 90. Oh, I love this car so much. And to have a car which, you know, after dropping the kids off at their clubs, you can take the scenic route home when it's a dry day like today, and you can have this much fun. Oh, honestly, there's nothing better for your well-being than this, I swear. Particularly when you're a dad as well, you know. God, sleep deprived and stressed all the time. And then you go and have a blast in an incredible car like this. Oh, and all of that just melts away. And you think, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Oh, I love this car so much. I'm sure everybody's different. I'm sure there's lots of people out there who will always pick and go for the car which is technically going to be the fastest thing for them to take on a track, or, you know, they know is the fastest they've gone down their route. But for me, I don't know. I don't want to go faster. I don't want to go faster than an FF. You know, that honestly gives me all the excitement, all the drama that I possibly could ever want. But if you've only got a fifth of the money, take it from me, it doesn't feel like a fifth of the experience right now. And just really quickly to summarize, you know, why spending time with the 612 Scaglietti and then getting back into this, you know, why I appreciate the Grand Sport so much now. I mean, a few things. One, you know, when these cars were brand new back in the noughties, you know, a Scaglietti would cost you around about £150,000. That's before adjusting for inflation, obviously. And then a Grand Sport would cost you, well, I can tell you exactly what this Grand Sport cost new, because I've got two massive ring binders which contain every single piece of paperwork and money that's ever been spent on this car, including the original sales invoice. So this car was 71,000. So a Scaglietti was, you know, more than double the price of this. And then today, you know, a 612 Scaglietti around what, like 60, 70,000 pounds, and one of these around 20,000 pounds. So, you know, a 612 is more than 3 times as much as this. But yes, if you are looking to get your naturally aspirated 4-seater Italian car just to have it as, you know, a continent crusher, a proper GT, then the 612 is infinitely better than this. However, I must say that it might have something to do with the fact that it rained for the whole 4 days I had the 612, but you know, any time I was in the 612 on my own, trying to press on and sort of trying to feel it, it always felt big and heavy to me. You know, whereas in the FF you press on and you forget you got those rear seats. You know, at no point with me having the 612, might be because of the weather, you know, I never felt like it was a 2-seater. So yeah, going from the 612, getting back into this feels tiny, this feels so light and more nimble, you know, than the Scaglietti. But, you know, just little things like the fact that this car has got, you know, an auto hill brake assist system where, you know, obviously because it's robotised manual like the 612, if you're waiting on a hill, like at the top of my road, for example, and you're waiting for a space to get out, you know, in this, it will automatically stop you from rolling back, whereas in the 612, you've got to use the handbrake. And if it was the other way around, I'd understand, you know, this car brand new was less than half the money. This is more of like a sporty blast weekend car. But yeah, the fact that it doesn't have that in the Ferrari of the time, you know, it just makes me love this car even more. If you're still watching this now and you haven't subscribed to the channel, come on, press the subscribe button. It means the world to a channel of my size. And particularly if you're a parent or you're gonna be a parent in the future, subscribe to the channel for goodness sake. Look, if you'd like to see how this car compares to a Gran Turismo on a little bit of a spirited blast, check out this video here, or if you've missed a video where I take this car out with all 4 of my children, click it here, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.